Hi guys, I'm Emmanuel Bernard from Switzerland. I've been building and shipping digital products since 20 years and now I teach AI automation, so you can save a lot of time and build amazing things even if you're not technical. In today's video, we're going to learn how to create a custom AI assistant using the latest and most powerful version of ChatGPT and how to integrate it directly into WhatsApp. Using AI assistant on WhatsApp is a game changer that is still underrated. Let me share some numbers with you to illustrate why this is so important. ChatGPT has 200 million active users in the world today, but only 10 million are actually paying and have access to the most powerful and advanced AI models. Let's compare that to WhatsApp. WhatsApp has 3,000 million active users. That's almost half of humanity. There's a huge opportunity here to create value by bringing powerful AI assistants to everyone. But spoiler alert, what we will be building in this video is super simple. There is no need for any technical skill, everybody can do it. Before we dive in, I have an exciting announcement to make. I'm starting a new adventure with my friend Thais from Brazil. Together, we have created the AI Atelier. It's an online community on School where we teach AI automation. You can join the community with the link in the description, and if you're fast, you might be able to secure one of the very limited free seats we have kept for our early birds. So don't hesitate to join us if you're serious about building things. Enough talking, let's start crafting. What we will be building is a very simple N8N workflow. N8N is my favorite automation tool. But I made this video in a way so it's interesting even if you're not using N8N. If you prefer to use other automation tool like, I don't know, Zapier, Make, or if you prefer to code everything yourself, you will still find some relevant information for you in that video. Let me know in the comment what automation tool you prefer to use. I'm very curious about that. To build this workflow, we will combine three tools. The first one is Twilio to send and receive WhatsApp messages. Twilio is my go-to tool when it comes to manage SMS, calls, or WhatsApp. It's well done, it's well documented, and the pricing is based on usage. The second tool is OpenAI. We'll use OpenAI to create the AI assistant. And the last one is Google Sheet. This is how it works. Our user sends a message via WhatsApp. We receive this message using Twilio and we send it to OpenAI. The assistant produces the answer that we send back to Twilio, to WhatsApp, and to the user. But if we want this to work, we need one more thing. We need to store the conversation IDs. As I said, we will use Google Sheet for this. We will store the user phone number that we receive from Twilio and the conversation ID that we get from OpenAI. So our system will know what user is corresponding to what conversation. And this will be our N8N workflow. We will now create our custom assistant. And that is the fun part. But there is an important distinction to understand. What we will create is an OpenAI assistant. It's not a custom GPT. A custom GPT is meant to be used in the ChatGPT interface and is reserved for premium users. OpenAI Assistant are kind of the same, but they are accessible via the API and you pay for usage. To create our assistant, we will go to the OpenAI website. In the products tab at the top, we see that we have the API here. We can click on Overview and start building. And then we arrive in the dashboard and you see that you have Playground where you can try your assistant and Dashboard where we will be building them. So we go to Dashboard and there we have the list of our assistants. So for the sake of this tutorial, we will click on Create a new assistant and we will name it the Lazy Assistant. Yes, my goal with this assistant is to create a laziness coach. And here is the little prompt that I have created for him. You are a laziness coach. You teach people how to be less efficient and more lazy. You value procrastination and you hate hard work. You answer with very short messages only. You are super lazy. You don't even finish your sentences. At the top here, we have the ID of the assistant. This we will need for the rest of the project. So you can just copy the assistant ID here. You can choose the model of the assistant, and here you can switch between 4.0, 4.0 mini, and the list will evolve with time. And it's important to choose the right model. Some models are more powerful, some models are more expensive, and it's good to know that you have the pricing in the documentation, pricing overview, and here you see that you have the price per token per model. So that's important to have in mind, that every model has a very different price range. You have a price calculator here, and you have the price for the input token. So the input tokens is the price of the tokens that you send to the model, and the output tokens is the price for the tokens that the model send to you in the response. So it can be a good idea to ask the model to send short answers to reduce the price. Creating a good AI assistant is a lot of work. In the instruction box here, you can very precisely define how you want your assistant to work. You can define his tone of voice, give him instruction, mission, and so on. Here you can provide him with a context, a knowledge base, upload files. You can allow your assistant to interpret code. You can add functions, etc., etc. It's a fun process, and the best way is to try and iterate and discuss with your assistant and fine-tune the instruction until the answers are satisfying. And for this, you can try to discuss with your assistant in the playground button here at the top. Let's say a message to our lazy assistant. Hey, my boss gave me a lot of work. What should I do? So we are sending the message to our assistant, and he answers, nap first, work later, if you feel like it. Okay, that's an answer. What's interesting here is the amount of token that it's used, so in and out, like we said, and that's it. Our assistant is ready. We can fine-tune it and try it until we are happy, change the model, the temperature, and so on. And with this idea, we will be able to interact with this assistant we've created in our n8n workflow. So now our assistant is ready. It's time to build our workflow. So this is the n8n interface. I will not show you how to create an n8n account. I will assume that your n8n account is set up and that your credentials are already set up in Twilio, OpenAI, and Google Drive. If you have issues with setting up credentials, really feel free to join the AI Atelier. We are very happy to help our community members to set up, but it's quite easy. You should be fine. So let's start by creating the workflow. The workflow starts when we receive a message from the user. So let's do that. We will need to add a trigger. A trigger is a way to start a workflow, and we will search for Twilio. So we will use Twilio to trigger the workflow on new SMS. Okay, so everything is set up. So this is how the workflow will start. For the moment, we will not take care of the data. We will just modelize the workflow, and we will add the end of the workflow. The workflow will end with a response, right? At the end, we send a response to the user. So Twilio, send an SMS or a WhatsApp. We see. So this is the starting point, and this is the ending point of the workflow. In the middle, we want the assistant to provide an answer. So to receive the message from the user and to formulate the answer. So for this, we have the OpenAI node here, and we have message and assistant. So this will message an assistant. One thing is the memory. We want our assistant to remember the conversation. And for this, we have several options. The first one is use memory connector. This is by default in n8n, and you can connect an external database to store the history. But what we want to do in this example, because I think it's more powerful, is to use the official thread ID, so the official history storage from OpenAI, which is named Thread, and it stores all the messages, files, and so on. And this is the one ChatGPT is using. So this is what we will be using. It's a bit more complicated, but way more powerful. So we use Thread ID. For the moment, we leave it like that. Okay, so this is our workflow. We receive a message. We have the assistant that answer, and then we send the message back. But we need to add some logic to that. Let's do it. The first thing is that we need to check if we already have a conversation with the user. So if the user who is writing is a new user or an existing user. For this, we will use the Sheet node, Google Sheet node here. We said that we will use Google Sheet to store the conversation ID. So here we will do get rows in Sheet. Okay, so I will start to rename my node so it's clean. Seek existing phone number. Okay, for the moment I leave it like that, so we don't care. Okay, and now we need to, if it's a new user, we need to behave differently than if it's an existing user. So here we need to add the if node, so logical node. So here we will check. For the moment we just do the workflow if existing user. Okay, so if it's an existing user, we will directly message the OpenAI assistant. If it's not an existing user, then we need to do something. The first thing to do is to create the thread in OpenAI. So we need to, because I said we will be using the OpenAI official history management system, then we need to tell to OpenAI to create a new thread for that user. And for this, we need to do something a bit advanced, but please stay with me, you will understand, it's simple. We need to call the OpenAI API, because N8N doesn't offer yet a way to do it automatically in a node. We'll use the HTTP request node. So I will fill the information after. This will call create thread. Create OpenAI thread. Right? Okay, so this will create the OpenAI thread. And when we have created the thread, we need to store in our database the thread. So we do Sheet, Google Sheets. Let's do append row in Sheet. So store conversation. Okay. And when we have done that, we can message our assistant. Okay. So this is our full workflow. So let's just rename things so we are clean. On WhatsApp message up, this is one name. Let's rename this one assistant answer and reply. The next thing to do is to create our database. So we will simply create a new Google Sheet in our Google Drive with 3 columns. The first one will store the phone number, the second one will store the thread ID, and the last one will store the date so we know when the conversation started. We choose our database correctly in the seek existing phone number node here, and in the store conversation node here we do the same. Stay with me, guys. We have done the heavy lifting and it's time to finalize the workflow so we make it work. For this, I like to work with the actual data. So I see what I do. We will try our workflow by sending a WhatsApp message to it. For this, we will use the Twilio test phone number. which we can find in our Twilio dashboard here. It gives us a test phone number, we can write to that number and play around in our workflow. So we can run our workflow. For the moment, we can just simply deactivate the nodes that are not working yet. So we can try and we can click on test workflow. So we will be listening for WhatsApp messages. We can open WhatsApp and send a message to our workflow. Hello world. And we see that something happened. Indeed, we received something. That's cool, right? Our workflow reacted to the WhatsApp message. This is exactly what we wanted to achieve. So here we have the message. Here we have the message we have sent, hello world, and we can start to play with it. Now we will move forward, and before this we will pin the data. So we pin the data to the node. It's just because we are building. After we can remove that, but make the creation process way easier. And one good thing to know is that we can edit those data. So we can very simply change hello world. We can add an exclamation mark, for example, and we can change it. Okay. So now we have our data. We can see what is going on. So here we want to seek in the conversation if the phone number already exists. So we will need to add some filter. So we add filter. We can select phone and we can simply drag and drop the from number here. So my number, the user number here, and we will check if it exists. No output data return. That's exactly what we wanted because this is a new phone number and we don't know it yet. If we want our workflow to work, to continue even with no data, this is something we need to do in the settings here. We need to say always output data. Okay, so then our workflow will return an empty JSON object and will not stop. So we can continue. So if existing user, so here we know that we are looking for the phone field like that, and we want to check just if it exists. Test step. So here we see that we have true branch, which is not triggered here because the phone does not exist, and false branch, which is triggered because the phone does not exist. So our workflow will go here to the false branch. And now we need to discuss a bit about how we want to create this OpenAI thread. In the OpenAI documentation, we will find all the information we need. So what we want to do is create a new thread. It's a new user. We want to create a new thread for him. So a new conversation for that user. So we just need to copy the URL. We see that it's a post request. Keep that in mind. It's a post request. And then we go back to our N8N workflow and we reactivate the node. We choose the method post and we paste the URL. There's some extra steps to do. So the first one is the authentication. Of course, we want this call to be protected. It means that not everyone should be able to create a conversation on our account. So for this, we will use the N8N credential management system. So we choose predefined credential type and we select OpenAI, right? And we choose our OpenAI key that we have created in our credentials. So that's the first part. Then we need to do an additional steps because if we try, we see that it doesn't work. It says that we need to provide an additional parameters, OpenAI beta and equal v2. That's because the assistants in OpenAI are still in beta and because that's very early and cutting edge, and let's do it. So for this we add header. So we say OpenAI beta, I think it's like that, open assistant equal v2. It's super simple, but it took me time to understand. And done. Our thread is created and it's returning the ID. Now that we have created the thread, we need to store it in our database. If you followed correctly, you knew that. So let's do it. we need to store the phone. So the phone, we can find it in the WhatsApp message trigger node. So we can, it's the from, right? Yes. And then we add the thread ID here like that. And we want to store also the date so we know when it has been created. And for this, we will use the magical power of an A10. We'll do now dot format, and we have the date. Let's try it, test. Okay, it worked. And let's check in our database. Yay, we have the phone number, the thread ID, and the date. Exactly what we wanted. So let's continue. We arrive to the magical part, let's say so, the part when we message the assistant and we ask for an answer. So let's reactivate this node. Here we choose our correct credential and we choose from the list the lazy assistant, the assistant we created. We could choose also to provide it by ID, but here we can also choose from the drop down. And for the source, here we need to set up things. So we don't want to take from previous node automatically. We want to define below. In the text here, we want to retrieve the message the user sent, right? So the body of the message. We drag and drop the body into the text field here. And we drag and drop the thread ID here. So we pass the thread ID here. And I think we are done. No, we are not done exactly. We have the last part is the reply. So let's run the assistant and we receive an output. Hey, very lazy output. We can feel that he's not very motivated to answer to us. Maybe you can tweak the assistant after. And the final step is this one. So we need to reactivate the reply. So the replied from is from our number, our Trello number. So it was the original, the 2, right? The 2 is the from. The from is the 2 is the from. You followed. We want the message to be sent to WhatsApp, and the message sent will be the output from the assistant, so the answer from the assistant. We are getting very close to it. I know you're hurried to try it, but right now it will not work, and that's because we have a final little thingy to do. It took me time to figure out why it was not working at this stage, because right now if we click test step, it's not working. We have bad parameters. Even if we pass the good number and we say it's to WhatsApp and everything looks correct, but what is a bit weird is that Twilio gives us the phone number with the prefix WhatsApp like that, from the from and the to, and he expects us to send solely the phone number without the prefix WhatsApp. So we need to remove it before sending it. So for this, we will once again use the power of an A10, because we can do little code here. I know I said without code, I lied a little bit. It's just a few characters of code, so not really a one line, just a few characters. So we will just replace, follow me, replace WhatsApp and replace it with nothing. So we do replace all WhatsApp and we replace with an empty string. So we do that for the from, and we do exactly the same thing for the to. And here we have just the phone numbers here. And if we test, it works. It sends something, right? It sends. Okay, so our workflow looks ready. It's time for the final test. Hello, my name is Manu. I'm creating a tutorial video about automation. Do you have any advices for me? Maybe it will change my life. Who knows? Keep it simple. Don't start. Okay, so I will not follow that advice. But let's check if he has memory. So what is my name? If he answers Manu, then we know that our workflow worked perfectly, like we expected. Manu, yay! Congratulations, guys. We've done it. Our workflow is working. Our assistant is ready. We can chat with him using WhatsApp directly. Of course, we could keep building it. We could improve it a lot by adding tools, so manage our emails, our calendar, and so on. We could improve the instruction of the assistant, also store the conversation in an external database so we can inspect what's going on. And maybe the most exciting feature idea would be to make this assistant premium, so people have to pay to discuss with him. So this would be quite simple. We just should connect Stripe in the workflow. And for the little history, that's how we met with my friend Thais. She came to me a few months ago to ask to build this exact workflow. So thanks a lot for watching. If you are willing for more, subscribe to my channel. I will keep sharing tutorials. And if you are looking for a community that is fluff-free, that is really building and solution-oriented, join us with the link in the description. Join and be part of the AI Atelier. See you around, dear crafters.